Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to share with you a clip from a recent live event. This is a members only live event. If you want to be present for these live events when I record them and have your questions asked and answered, check out my YouTube channel, the membership page, find out a subscription level that you're interested in supporting me at, and then you can be present for the member only lives events and you'll see member only content on the channel. In this one, Gathering the Magic and myself are going to talk about land 1.5. We're going to talk about getting ready, how he's gotten ready, how I'm getting ready, how much DEC I need, the use of time crystals as well as grain, and ultimately what grain is going to look like when it might be the path to profitability for land, but then storage is going to be an issue as we move into later editions of land. And what's that going to do for our game? This is a big winding conversation, but me and Gathering get into it. I hope you'll stick around. Thank you, Gathering the Magic, for this, for hanging out. And guys, have an amazing day. God bless. Land 1.5 and how to prepare. Let's just take it one by one, because I'm interested in is there one of the topics, first of all, Gathering, that you more want to get into? Because if so, I'm happy to follow that. But if not, then
probably land.
okay.
I mean, I know land's been talked to death, but there's still a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. With land 1.5. I think I'm mostly ready. I at least have the DEC that I think I'm going to need for my 7 plots, so I'm good there. It's just a question of what cards I'm going to put on my plots. I have 2 magical plots and then 5 common plots, so definitely going research for my 2 magical plots. Of my other 5, probably at least 3 of them I'm going to be doing grain, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to do on the other 2. This is, to me, is basically going to be the accumulation phase of land. 1.5 is you want to build up as much grain as you can, and as much research as you can as well. I mean, I know people are talking about the SPS aspect of it, but for me, it's like you can get SPS off the market. You can get SPS in guild brawls. You can get SPS in ranked battles. You know, unless you have an occupied plot, don't worry about SPS. Focus on the research. I think that's going to be extremely important when Land 2.0 comes out.
Yeah, I did a video yesterday where I went through some comments from the community. It was out live as of midnight, so if you haven't seen it, guys, go check it out. But I titled SPS farming will not be profitable, and that's me trying to. That's one of the topics we do talk about in the video. We talk about 3 different topics, but. To carry forward with the conversation you're sparking there, Gathering, I think there's definitely, it's going to be more difficult to extract SPS from your plots of land than people understand. And there's a comment in that video that I dive into where one of my audience members says, essentially, the grain cost associated with feeding the monsters that you think you're going to farm your land with going to be far greater than the financial return of the SPS you can extract. And so, and he's right, it's true. It's going to cost you if you can't feed your monsters yourself with effort from your own plots of land. SPS farming is just pretty much off the table. So it probably is, in some sense, stacking the grain or doing magic research if you believe in the sort of the future, what that'll be. Pretoria research, I think that's going to be it. I think for me, I'm going to try and do SPS, but I'm going to aim at being entirely self-sufficient. So most of my plots of land are going to be producing grain, and I have 23 plots of land, and I have 4 epics, and I have 3 legendary, or 4 epics, and I forget, 6 or so, maybe 7 rares. Let me see. I've got it all in an Excel spreadsheet. I wonder if I can pull this up into my...
So are you going to do grain on your epics? That's really going to help you boost your grain production.
I think so.
That automatic 40% boost.
Yeah, I think so. And then, so if I do my 4 epics and I produce grain, I haven't crunched the numbers to see how much that'll do. But if I jack them up, like I make them my optimal production, because I know I'm going to need that grain. I know I'm going to, because just roughly speaking, I understand that if you have like 1 plot of land, all things relatively equal, can produce roughly the grain for 2 plots of land. And then it depends on the multipliers you have access to, etc. But if you think about it from that perspective, it's going to be something like that. It's not going to be one plot of land feeds 5. It's not going to be one plot of land feeds 1. It's something like one plot of land feeds 2. But then I can get these multipliers with the epics. Maybe I can go farther and put fewer of them into the grain if I do the epics and some of the rares. But I definitely I think I have enough with 23 plots to be able to more than be sufficient. Now, there's also the cost. Another factor that comes into the conversation is not just the DEC to buy the grain, or can you make the grain, but there's the opportunity cost involved in making the grain. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Gathering. So, if I'm planning on producing SPS with, let's say, I've got 23 plots with, let's say, 8 of my plots I'm going to use for SPS, and then 16 or 15 I'm going to use for producing grain. Just imagine. Then I have to also wrestle with what's the opportunity cost of those cards on my plots of land, and are they producing resources that are justifying their time? Have you thought that through at all, Gathering? And where do you land if you have?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest issue I think that people have with putting monsters on land is like, once you put your monster on your land, it's locked on that plot. You can't use it in ranked battles anymore. You can't use it in guild battles. So even though it may be a great card, it might get you a ton of production points, give you a lot of resources. Can you really afford to put it there and lock it there and not be able to use it? I mean, how much SPS are you going to lose if you could take that card off of your plot, actually play it in a guild brawl, and your guild, if you win a few more battles, you might push your guild from third place to second place to first place. If you had that monster, how much more SPS would you have gotten there, as opposed to the amount of SPS you just having it, staked on your plot? So that's going to be something I think that people are not going to be able to figure out until this goes live, and we've got a few months worth of data where we can kind of crunch the numbers. But yeah, it's definitely probably one of the biggest considerations. Like for me, I'm basically a silver player, so I don't have, maxed out cards. So I did a budget video just kind of going through, okay, what is the most production that I could get for the level cards that I do have for the least amount of price.
Yeah.
If I don't have 50,000 DEC that I can put on a plot, if I can only put, let's say, 10,000 DEC, what is the most production that I can get per plot?
Yeah.
So there are options available for players that say, hey, I'm not a diamond or champ player. Can I play land, and can I make it profitable, and can I have fun with it? And I think the answer is definitely yes. Just go into it knowing that you're not going to get 10,000 production points or more for your plot of land.
Yeah.
But it is very doable that you could get 3,000 to 5,000, and that's a decent amount to get started with.
I think even I'm in that boat a little bit. Like on my screen, I have my land data. This is like the beginning of my analysis of it. And I can see, with this spreadsheet information, you can see my 4 epics, my rares, my commons, and the clearing plot, the effort, the PP required to clear my plots. And then the time crystals required if I just want to buy away the plot, if I want to make the plot clear through time crystals. And that's 4,845 time crystals to accomplish that goal on day 1. But I only have 2,700 time crystals. Now I could buy more, but that's I need 2,145, and I believe they're 100 each, 100 DEC per. Is that right? 100 DEC per time crystal?
Yep, 100 DEC or DECB.
Yeah, I don't have any DECB. So, we're talking 500,000 DEC to clear my plots, or that's if I don't use my time crystals that I currently have, or 215,000 DEC plus all of my time crystals. So, and then I need, however much DEC I'm going to stake into it. Mathematically, if I was to go 50,000 DEC on every plot of land, I'm over 1.15 million DEC. So I'm talking like I need roughly 1.6 million DEC to fully activate, but I don't think, like you're saying, that that's necessary. I actually believe what you're saying, and I think somewhere, I don't know if it's like maybe I'm half activated. What if you do maximally activate? What are you looking at sort of production point wise, is there a calculator that I don't know about, like through Splinter Cards or through Peak Monsters, that helps people figure this stuff out for themselves, or no?
I think on Peak Monsters they have a program that shows that, because I think I saw a Gank and Walking Keys show a couple days ago where Walking Keys went through on Peak Monsters, and they had an example of a plot of land where you could put in the rarity. Yep, there it is. You could put in the rarity. You could put in what monsters are on each plot of land, what their level is, whether they're gold foil. So that gives you a good idea of your
Amazing.
production points.
Yeah, amazing. So let's just grab one example because I actually want to walk through this. Let's grab my epic. I have an epic tundra, epic lake, epic tundra, epic swamp. Let's grab an epic tundra because I have 2 of those. Epic, and it's just normal. The tundra. And this, for anybody who doesn't know, this was under Explore, and there's a land calculator on Peak Monsters. Explore land calculator, and then you can enter in your epic, your condition 0, none, terrain tundra, land configuration, boost. So the worker one. Oh, okay, I see. The titles. Do I want Legionnaire title? What? Let's see. Explorer, Gambler. So I sold my Scorcher the other day. Did you get a Scorcher? No, you didn't get a Scorcher, did you?
No. Nope.
I sold my Scorcher for $333. Like, people are interested in these bonuses for sure. I know they are. But that seems like a big price tag. Like, I feel like I cleaned up there. Maybe I'm wrong. But man, $333 for my Scorcher title. I don't know. I'm happy with it. Let's put it that way.
I would be very happy with that.
My Gambler, oof. Because see, I sold my Scorcher for $333. I also sold a Gambler one for like I think $150. And the bonus differential here on the Gambler is 25%, man. This is something I didn't know. Did you know all this, gathering the differentials on the different titles and how they produce?
Yeah, I knew the different titles gave different percentages. Didn't really concern me a whole lot since I don't have titles, but yep, I think that I did see that.
I'm actually increasingly disappointed over the years that I didn't get an Untamed because I bought more than 1,000 packs, but I bought them across a variety of accounts, which I was trying to do in order to get. I thought I was gonna get bonuses or something like that, but yeah, frustrating because it would have been cool to have an Untamed one. Shoulder. So, anyways, let's imagine I'm going to use my Gambler title. Totems, I have common title totems. Rooney. The Rooney enables, oh man, gold Rooney. Gold Roonies, there's like 5 of those things, man. No, I'm definitely not using my Rooney. Actually, maybe I would. Maybe I would use my Rooney. And then, oh wow, you can, I'm going to want gold. I have like about 600,000 collection power in gold cards that I don't even use. So I should be able to pull out legendary, epic, rare, something like that. It shouldn't be too hard. And max, not max. I could do level 3. I think I do have max. Wait a second. Oh yeah, because you can overinflate you can put more BCX into a card than. That'd be an interesting approach. I'm sure some people will do that. You have one plot of land that's so important, you could put a monster on it that has more BCX than is optimal for game engine, right? A legendary max level is 11, but you might conceivably put in a legendary with 20 BCX if it made sense to try and really push.
I wonder if they'd let you do that, or if it's capped, because I know like a regular foil legendary is 1500. So I wonder if that's for 11 BCX, 15 BCX, 20 BCX, if it's capped at that 1500.
What's the max BCX in an epic?
Epic 46, and then a gold is 10.
Okay, 10. That's why I'm getting crazy numbers here.
And that's what I'm basing my build on for some of my plots of land, is getting gold foil epics. Even if you have just a 1 BCX gold foil epic, that is, I believe, 600 points, and it will only cost you 1,000 DEC. So like for me being on a budget build, I could just put a 1 BCX gold foil, get 660 production points, and it's only going to cost me 1,000 DEC.
Wow. So walk me through those numbers one more time.
If you look on the white paper where they go through the production points, like a max legendary is like 1,500 points. So, you know, most people are going to look at the regular foils. But if you look at the gold, a max gold epic is 6,000 points, but an individual BCX is 600.
Gotcha.
So if you have a 2 BCX gold foil epic, that's basically the same as a regular maxed out epic.
Gotcha.
Or just a fraction of the DEC.
So you're saying,
so if you used a regular epic, you'd spend 10,000 DEC for 1,250 points, or you could spend a 2 BCX gold, get 1,200 points, and it would only cost you 2,000 DEC.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So the gold, you only need, so 1 gold BCX of an epic is 600, but then therefore if you put 2 together, like 2 BCX of a gold foil epic, you're getting 1,200 production points. That's comparable to a regular max level epic, and the DC or the staking cost. And I wonder, what about the grain feeding cost? Would it be larger with your max? It would, wouldn't it?
The grain is dependent on the base production points of your worker.
Okay.
And that's before bonuses. So this is why bonuses are going to be so huge for whatever plots you're producing grain on.
Yeah.
So like, let's say you have like a max common, you know, it's only going to be consuming grain at that 1,000 production point level.
Yes.
But if you use the correct splinter, you get 10%. If you use a totem, you get 10%. You know, if you have a title, you start adding up all those extra percentages.
Yes.
That's not going to add to the grain cost, but it will add to your grain production.
Yeah.
So that's when you're going to start getting more than 2 for 1.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get into the 2.3, 2.5 grain.
Yeah.
Compared to what you're consuming. So those little bonuses, guys, are really going to add up.
Yeah, it's super fun to listen to that. Honestly, Gathering, I think about as I listen to talk about that, I start to smile because I'm excited to. This is a totally new game. People don't get that. I don't think. I think they like, oh, it's just Splinterlands. No, this is a totally new game. The min maxing that we're talking about here, and the thoughtfulness that you just expressed between, you know, hey, you could do an epic regular foil max, and that has a certain financial cost and has a certain reward and has a certain DEC commitment requirement. And then you could theoretically do a gold foil BCX, two gold foil BCXs, and that transforms the equation in this thoughtful way that if you're attuned to making those sorts of considerations, there's paths to profitability for various people at every level. Like you said to yourself, you're not one of these guys who can throw 50,000 DEC at every plot. You're not one of these guys who has the deck that can just dump cards in thoughtlessly. I am a little bit like more fortunate in that, like I can't just thoughtlessly dump, but I'm definitely in a place where I can do a bit more. I don't need the sort of precision that I'm hearing that you've thought this through. For instance, just quickly, I was looking at my cards. So I go to my cards, and I go to filters, and I go, we want to see only my owned. All right, owned.
Probably the worst thing that you could do on land, and I think a lot of people are going to do it, is they're just going to look at the cost of like the reward cards that were a penny or less than a penny. They're going to max them out, and they're going to dump them on their land. You're going to get the least amount of production for the highest cost. You're gonna get what, 5,000, 5,500 production points, and it's gonna cost you 50,000 DEC. Where you could get you could just put 1 maxed out epic, leave the other 4 empty, you know, and that's gonna cost you a lot less.
And you're saying gold foil epic, right?
Gold foil epic, yep.
So the distinction you're really pointing to is that some of the modern cards that have a lower production point Like not just dumping cheap cards to reach the highest level of production point you can is not the play. The thoughtful play is understanding the balance between the highest possible production point you can reach while definitely thoughtfully considering the DEC commitment and the grain, even the grain expectations, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And so it seems to me like if you were to simplify the equation, and I might be wrong, and maybe you can guide me if I'm saying this incorrectly, but it seems to me as I study this and as I listen to you, the path really is one of the best approaches might be to find the best cards that you have that you're willing to commit to it. The oldest cards, the ones that you're not using because you don't want to diminish your. That's the other consideration we talked about a few minutes ago. It's also going to have ramifications for your player experience over here. So you do need to balance that. But if you got cards that you don't really care about, and like for me, I play in Wild right now, but I don't own a lot of Wild cards. I own some great ones, really amazing ones. But like just quickly, let's go Wild. And these are some gold foil. Are they all common? Common. Okay, those are just commons. Let's go legendary and let's go for gold foil. Now, these are not gold foils, but I own some powerful maxed out legendary older cards. Angel of Light. Let's see the oldest one. I've got an Alpha Dragon gold foil maxed out. Alpha has 8 instead of 11. So I need to now, I'm inclined to say I might use these guys on my plots of land with the expectation that like I would move to modern and just retire sort of from the Wild. But I need to, I want to weigh that against what you just said, which is essentially the gold foils can really sort of stretch what you're doing with lower BCX and therefore lower financial commitment. But man, I don't know if I'll be able to, I don't think I could replicate the production power available from like a maxed out Alpha Gold Foil Lightning Dragon. Like I just, you know what I mean? I'm not going to get that. Even what you just said about how you could use Gold Foil Epics or Legendaries, I'm not going to be able to buy those equivalent to this. And so the PP available here is 15,000. Like that's for one card. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to, do you have certain plots that you know you need the most out of? And I think I might do my best cards on those 4 epics producing grain with all the bonuses I can muster. And then I can see how much calculation of grain I'm producing and then I'm going to need other plots of land doing grain too. But I want to be feeding myself and producing extra and then use the extra for SPS or magic. If I have a few magicals, so I'll use them too.
Oh, you can tell they spent a lot of time in the numbers for land, just for the calculations of, okay, how much grain are you going to produce? How much are you going to consume? What are the taxes going to be? There's a lot to consider here. I mean, on the surface, it may not look that difficult. It's like, oh, okay, you just stake some monsters on land, you produce, grain, SPS. Okay, how difficult can it be? But it is very nuanced. There's a lot of detail here, so that makes it fun and exciting.
Absolutely, and this is the beginning. Remember, we're going to introduce 50 resources, and the liquidity pools will almost be a new game too. The liquidity pools, because there's going to be profitability across those 50 liquidity pools for those 50 different resources that land is going to produce: stone, rock, wood, wheat, whatever. And then that is a whole new micromanagement, because there's opportunities in those liquidity pools, which is in some sense like a DeFi game in and of itself. But then the resource management, in the same way you just talked about with complexity, how we navigate grain versus research versus SPS, try adding 50 new resources, because they're going to produce different things that you're going to want to have access to. And some people have theorized that you're going to have the research will, I think this might be an aftersound. I don't know who to give credit to. This is not my idea. Somebody was talking about how the research might open the door to new
New buildings.
Yes, new buildings for sure, but then indirectly that might mean that you can move, that you're capable of developing, for instance, iron into steel, or steel into building, building Y. And if you can't get the steel, then you can't build the building, and the building has an implication for lowering your taxes, or for, increasing your trade routes, which then translates to, um, fewer sale percentages lost when you trade with the market, etc. And so I'm pretty sure that makes sense. Like I think that makes sense, and I kind of expect something like that, where research isn't just, yes, it is like this ultimate big goal, and we know that it's going to do something big for the entire community, for your region, but I wouldn't be surprised if research, because you own your research points, I wouldn't be surprised, they're soul bound. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was implications like that. Now you've reached tier 1, 2, 3. You can produce your iron into steel, or your, wood into shingles, or whatever. And it starts unlocking new things. So there's total depth that's possible here that I'm super excited about.
Yeah, I think research definitely is going to apply to two different levels. It's going to apply to your territory, and then it's going to apply to your own account. I think Secret of Pretoria ultimately is going to be whatever, because they talked about how it's kind of a race, a competition. I think whatever territory unlocks it first, that's going to be the first territory that's going to be able to create items and spells. I think that's the ultimate goal.
Yep.
They have already talked about how it's probably going to be a multi-year process, so for me it makes sense. Going on the individual level, since those research tokens are soulbound, I think, like you said, it's going to be something where once you hit a certain amount or a certain tier, it's going to be like, okay, now you can create this storage building to store whatever, or you can unlock level 2 of your granary. So now you can level your granary from 1 to 2, that type of thing. So people definitely don't sleep on research. You're going to want to do at least some research in 1.5 and build up those tokens.
And it's the magic lands that are more predisposed to producing better research, right?
Yep. They get the 100% bonus, just like the occupied will get the 100% bonus for SPS.
I'm pumped about the SPS, but I'm really, like in that video, like I said earlier, that title, I think he's probably right, at least for the beginning. While SPS prices are where they're at, I actually think it's going to be really. Yeah, I talk about in that video, I did it for those who weren't here earlier, and shout out to a few of the commenters I see out there, guys. Kevin, appreciate you popping by. He says, missed the beginning. Great to try a new game. Talking about Splinter Forge, absolutely. Paul, what do you think about the power sources not being bound to the plot? I definitely want to talk about that, Paul. And there's other comments in the chat too. But before I do, I don't want to lose my train of thought. The video from yesterday talking about how SPS is not going to be profitable. I think because SPS price is 1.7 cents or whatever it is, that's probably going to be true. And unless you think about it from a perspective of like Bitcoin farming or SPS, we're farming SPS right now when we play this game, when we play land. And you have to ask yourself, not just is it profitable today, but do I think the prices are going to reach a place in the future that it will be retroactively rewarding, that will substantially sort of outweigh my outlays, like with the costs of operation. And it's possible that that's so, and it's possible that it doesn't ever happen. But that's a conversation you have to have, because if you think the SPS are only worth 1.7 cents each, then it's just financially, I don't think that makes any sense. I think you'd rather commit to the grain production to support those who are crazy enough to go after the SPS. But also the magic research, because I think for sure this is going to open doors that are going to be really pivotal for the maximum enjoyment of land. And you can't, because those research tokens are soul bound, you're not going to be able to later buy them from someone else. You got to earn them. And so I'm pretty sure you're right that we need to focus on magic in a way that most people aren't right now. I think a lot of people are thinking, I'm going to get SPS. And I think some people are going to be shocked by the grain demand, but that's being covered by our YouTube sort of content creators. But I still think some people are going to be shocked by how much grain they have to buy and how much DEC that costs, and then the financial loss that represents. So we'll see. But unless you have something to say on that, Gathering, let's see if there's any comments. Do you have any comment on what I just said there?
Oh, no, I agree. You know, the DE, like I said, this is the accumulation phase 1.5. So this is where we want to get our plots up and running. Want to stack as much grain as you can for 2.0 and beyond. Build up your storage as much as you can, because right now, remember, there are no storage limits in 1.5. You can store as much grain as you want. When 2.0 comes out and beyond, they are going to come out with, it sounds like, of course, everything is subject to change. You're going to have storage limits.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you can produce a ton of grain, you're going to need some place to store that. So now you're going to have to worry about, okay, am I going to get rid of some of my grain producing lands or magic producing lands and have to build storage buildings on them
Mm-hmm.
to store my grain?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I going to send my grain to somebody in maybe the same track and have them store it for me and then pay them a fee?
Mm.
And is that fee going to be worth it compared to, you know, what I would get if I was just producing it or buying it off the market?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
definitely store as much grain as you can now.
Do you think they'll come out when those changes happen and say to us, you know, grain, there's not been any sort of limitation on how much grain you can store in each of your plots up until now, but now moving forward, or in like 3 weeks, we're going to implement 1.6 or 2.0 or whatever it is. And at that moment in time, you now need grain storage buildings, and those grain buildings you don't necessarily even have, but here they are, you got to get them. And then if you don't get them, there's this immediate ramification. You've got, you know, 1 million and you can only store 100,000. You either got to sell that or use it or move it in some other way to, you know, to one of your guildmates within your region, etc. Do you think that they're going to draw that they would do that to us? Like, because I'm actually not sure. They might say to us, I kind of would think we might be grandfathered in. Those plots that have over those thresholds maybe would be permitted to allow it until but they can't add more or something. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a path.
Yeah.
I think they might. What I'm saying is, I think they might
Yeah.
try and carefully handle those of us who build a crazy grain stack. Do you think I'm right there?
Yeah, let's say, for example, you have one plot and you've stored, let's just say, 100,000 grain on that plot, you know, because there's no limit. And then when it goes live, they say, okay, you're allowed to store without a building 10,000 grain. Okay, what am I going to do with that extra 90,000 grain? What they may do is they may just say, hey, you cannot produce any more grain on that plot until the amount that you have dwindles down to that 10,000 threshold. Or, of course, you could put it on the market and sell it. That land is basically locked from producing any more until you get rid of that excess grain that's on the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear the salt comments already when that happens?
Yes, I know, right? Absolutely. That's why it's important that we think about it right now, because I think we're just guessing a little bit, but I think that makes some sense. They probably, because I think if you're being fair about the developers' approach with this game, I think you have to admit that they try really hard to not screw the people who have made decisions from before, but they do sometimes have to change things in ways that surprise the people who acted before. And that's, you know, Rift Watcher packs being burned, Chaos Legion packs being burned, in some, you know, discount sales on Chaos Legion packs after the pre-sale. So there's been different ways they've acted that have, for the community's perspective, you know, really screwed them. That's what some of the salty people will say. And just because we make an assumption that I can stack infinite grain because there's no limit today, we almost need to know that that's not going to be the case. And we almost need to say it to ourselves and to our community members, because we will start stacking massive bags of grain. Because like I said, SPS isn't producing a ton of profit, and some people aren't taking magic research seriously. So now I think we got to think through what that's going to mean, because you're almost certainly going to produce more grain than you would think, and then ultimately it's going to reach a point at some point. It's a 1.6 or 2.0 or somewhere in between where they're going to say, nope, it's, you know, you can't get any more, and then there's going to be some financial cost, DC maybe, or right, there'll be some cost to create those buildings, and people are going to say, you caught me by surprise. I never knew this was happening. Like, this is unfair. So hopefully we can think that through a little bit as we hear more from different town halls.
Yeah, it's going to be the balancing act of, you want however many plots you have, you want to produce enough grain to cover your costs and a little bit extra, but as you build up that extra supply, eventually you're going to hit your storage limit. And
Yep.
then the question you're going to have to ask yourself is, okay, am I willing to sell that? Or would it be more advantageous to get rid of one of my grain producing buildings and put a storage building there, store it myself? Or do I want to, like I said before, do you want to send your grain to another player and have them store it for you and then just pay them whatever fee? So it's going to be that balancing act that people are going to have to learn to adjust to.
Mm-hmm. Let's have a peek at this comment from Paul. He said, what do you think about the power sources not being bound to the plot? First of all, the power sources, there are two different types of power sources, right? There's the power source that you can bring and have, or there's the one you can get through the building in the box. Is that correct, Gathering?
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's something that caught me by surprise too, is I guess the building in the box, you have to, like if you're going to buy a plot off of like say Peak Monsters and it has a building in the box, you have to do it before 1.5 goes live or you won't get that free power source, I guess is my understanding how
Yes.
they worded it.
Yeah, when
Okay.
1.5 launches. So part of the way I wanted to answer the question is really that theoretically it's not bound to the plot of land in some sense, but it is now. Like currently, if you were to buy one with a building in a box today, you are going to get that building in a box power source. But if you wait until 1.5 launches, then the Steam storage account that owns this plot with the building in a box on my screen right now, they will receive that building in a box. You will, and the seller, if Steam Storage sold it after that point, I guess it would say, PRLOP04 there, right? It would be this very plot, but it would no longer say building in a box because that's now on his account. So I think it's okay. I don't see it as a negative because one, if you want to buy plots with building in a box, do it now. First thing. Second thing, as an owner of properties with a building in a box, it might mean we have a little bit more versatility. Like think about it this way. Where's my plots of land? Discord.
So would the person that bought the plot, if it's after 1.5, they wouldn't get the power source, but would they get the time crystals? Because aren't the time crystals also part of the building in the box that lets you basically build a building for free, or is that something separate?
I think the time crystals were separate, and the time crystals are already in my account. Meaning, like I bought time crystals when I bought my plots, and so I think it's entirely separate. I think the building in a box gives you the ability to build one building, and I think that can be your power. As I understood it, that can be your power core or whatever. And so it's just that. It's not also time crystals, but that sort of ability, or it's as long as it's after 1.5, if you have those BIBs, and as you can see on the screen right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It seems to me that what this is going to mean is that these building in a boxes actually can be utilized. I don't have to put it on this common. Am I mistaken in understanding it and saying that because these BIBs are soul bound, or not soul bound, are account bound and not necessarily tied to the property, I actually think it might help me, unless I misunderstand this. I think I might be able to take one of these BIBs off my common and slip it onto an epic. Because
Yeah, I think you can do that with the power source, but I think another part of the BIB is, like you said, you're able to build your first building at no resource cost. So I think that ability is probably tied to that specific plot, but your ability to move the power source, I think, is there. So like you said, if you want to move your building in the box,
Okay.
the power source from a common to an epic, yep, you should be able to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's right. So, but I guess what I'm saying when I answered Paul's question, I guess I figure it was a surprise to me, but it's not necessarily a problem, because if we want a BIB, you just buy it now. And if you want that power source, you just buy it now. And then it might open some sort of versatility, like as we move forward. But we'll see. Paul says it's going to take time. It's going to take a while to just clear all my land. Absolutely. If you are not using the time crystals, it's going to take a long while, especially if you have any sort of epics or legendaries or magicals or occupieds. It can take a ton of time. Let's pull that up right now.
So what are your thoughts on time crystals being maybe the one or a main catalyst in pushing DEC to peg? Because I think once people realize the power of time crystals and how much you can save,
Mhm.
people are going to be buying those time crystals left and right. And 100 DEC a pop, they're going to be going. They're going to be flying off the shelves.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely am very excited about that. I'm glad you said that. No, I haven't crunched the numbers, but as I even show you this screen that you guys probably seen already, but this is the amount of production power required to clear your plot of land. At a common, you're talking 1.5. Well, I mean, on my Excel spreadsheet, I give some of this information, but look at this: legendary occupied, 18 million. The amount of cards that you're gonna, because the maximum is the maximum per plot of land, no matter what the best card you put on there. Pre-bonus, I think it's 100,000. Is that right, Gathering?
Yes, 100,000.
So pre-bonus, but you might have a legendary totem. You might have like those guys with that sort of crazy production power might have a Rooney to throw on there, a legendary totem, and then they're going to use the right cards to give you the multiplier on the content. So you might be doing 400,000 or something production points from one plot of land on an occupied legendary. Those guys who have those might, something like that. And then, but even still, you're talking like a full month, I think is my math. If I'm doing that quickly, maybe it's even more than a month. 400,000 divided by 18 million, or 18 million divided by 400,000. I think it's in the neighborhood of 30-ish days of nothing but clearing. So absolutely, those people who want to get going, I want to get going, and all I'm doing is doing grain. So I'm tempted. First of all, I'm tempted to sell my time crystals because I want that DEC, but I'm also tempted to just buy more time crystals, go the other way, buy them all and clear everything so I can just get started, because I'm interested. I really want to play, but it might be the prudent play to sell time crystals now if you have them, because or to figure out deals with people who want them and get 95 DEC on it or whatever, because I do think there's going to be radical demand for it. And you're right, that DEC is burnt, which is to say it's one of the paths that will add to return to peg.
Yeah, definitely. And especially like when Land 2.0 comes out and we have more options of buildings that we can build and upgrade. Eventually your buildings are going to have to be repaired. So do you want to spend X amount of time in repair costs, or do you want to spend a few time crystals and boom, repairs are instantly done? You can get right back to production.
Yeah.
Or you want to level your building from level 1 to level 2. It's going to take X amount of days.
Yeah.
Nope, you can do that instantly with time crystals. And once people realize the power in that, and like you said, people want it now. They want to be the first one. They want to get a jump on everyone else. Those time crystals, there's going to be a big demand for them in large amounts. So that's really going to start burning DEC like crazy when we get to 2.0 and beyond.
I would think that every time crystal, like, to me, time crystals are so desirable that I can't imagine. There's probably people out there that have time crystals and would through Discord you might speak about, and if you could find deals you trust, people you trust, if there's deals to be had, like if you can play 75 DEC on a time crystal or 50 DEC on a time crystal, I would back the truck up. But you got to recognize who you're dealing with and understand that such deals would be, essentially, you'd have to trust your seller. But man, I bet there are people out there that aren't recognizing what you're saying and would let their time crystals go, which is interesting to me.
Somebody needs to make a proposal right now that the team puts time crystals on the non-card market ASAP.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know why they don't do it right now. Put it right on the non-card market, and so people can start posting how much they want to sell it for. Because I'll tell you right now, if people were going to sell it for 95 or 90 or 75 EEC, I'd be buying all of them.
Yeah, you're totally right. Why is it not? I mean, even Hive Engine. Why is Hive Engine not got it?
Yeah, it's not even on Hive. That's usually where I go to swap and buy a lot of my tokens is on Hive. It's not there. I'm like, well, Splinterlands could just put it right on their website, right on the non-card market.
This is not the same thing, right? This is something entirely different.
Yeah, that's not it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That needs to be listed. I don't know why that's not. I'm going to let's see what. Oops. Let's see. Kevin says, I'm going
there.
What's that?
There's a comment there too we can get to in a couple minutes. I saw that you had highlighted that was talking about how it would cost more to buy a gold epic than it would be to buy a common. Yes, I agree. but it costs more for the card, but you're going to pay a lot less in the DEC. So your overall cost per plot might end up being a little bit less or basically the same. Because he's talking about how much it would cost. I think for me, when I looked at the gold foil epics, they were basically $7 to $8 a piece. So depending on how many BCX of the gold you were going to put on your plot, they'll cost you 7 or 8 BCX or $7 or $8 a piece. But you're going to spend a lot less in the DEC cost.
Mm-hmm. In the DEC cost is not a cost, isn't it? It's just like
It's a stake.
It's a stake, but there's an opportunity cost in that. When you stake more DC into your plot of land, you need to have the DC in the first place. And then second of all, you can't use it because that card's on there now. So in some sense, for the long haul, it's probably there. So it really, in many ways, is spent. So I see your point, and but I also see Henster's point, because people have to weigh. This is the problem with this stuff. You have to weigh. Jordan Peterson has this really great line about understanding what is best for you. He says that you need to understand, like, doing what is right or good for you specifically is actually more complicated than you might imagine, because there's the you of today, there's the you of tomorrow, the you of 5 years, and the you of 50 years from now. And they each have different interests. The you of today might want to have Sundays all day long today. You might want to eat ice cream and cake, and right, like, it's enjoy. You want to sit on your ass and not do anything. But the you of tomorrow is going to maybe regret some of those choices, and definitely the you of 5 years from now has totally different interests, health concerns, and my work suffered because you sat on your ass and didn't do anything, etc. And understanding that point in the context of Splinterlands, actually, with what you're saying here, Henster, and you two gathering, it's there might be a path to save $4 if you just use the commons, but then you also have these other considerations that are beyond just the immediate cost. There's the DEC sink staked into your plot of land. There's the availability of commons versus some of the epics, and also the future price appreciation on. Is an epic likely to go up in value greater than a common? I think probably. So there's lots of considerations when you make these decisions. It's so complicated. Today, tomorrow, the next day, we got to think it through on various angles.
Yeah, just running the numbers through my head real quick. Like, if you were to grab, let's just say, 5 max Chaos Legion commons. So that's what, 400 BCX. Let's just say $5. So you've got 5 slots for a plot of land. You put 5 max commons there at $5 a piece.
Yep.
That's $25.
Yes.
Plus you've got 50,000 DEC. So let's say DEC's at peg, so that would be $50. Right now it's $40. So you're looking at $40 for the DEC tie-up, because you're not spending it, but you are staking it. So you've got $40 there, plus you've got the $25 of monsters, that's $65. Now let's say you would just get 1 BCX gold foil epic for each of the 5 slots. So slot number 1, you have a 1 BCX gold foil epic. That's going to cost you, let's say, $7 to $8. Let's just say $8. So 8 times 5 is 40. So there's $40 in the monster cost, but you're only spending 1,000 DEC per slot because it's only 1/10 of being maxed.
Mm-hmm.
So 1,000 times 5 is 5,000 DEC that you're staking on that land. So that 5,000 DEC right now is, what, $4? It's a little bit less.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at a total cost of $44 for a gold epic on each slot, as opposed to 65 to 75 for your commons. So the cost per card is more for the gold, but you're actually getting, I think, 6,600 production points as opposed to 5,500. You're getting about 20% more production, but you're getting it for even less cost.
20% more production because of the epics, you're saying?
Yep, because an epic will give you, if you have,
it's a 40% bonus, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 600 per slot. So that would be, what, 3,000 production points. So you'd be getting less production points, but you'd be getting it for a lot less cost.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be getting, what, let's see, so that would be 3,300, I think, with the 10% bonus, if you got the correct splinter. So if you wanted to get a little bit higher production than the common, you'd need a 2 BCX in each slot. So now you're looking at I think it would be a little bit more than. You're looking at about $70 plus maybe $8 in DEC.
Let's quickly look at this. So, I've got on my screen here Chaos Legion, Epic, Gold Foil, 1 BCX across the board. This is the terrain type. I've lost some percentage because I'm using the wrong. But let's find the right. So this is my Tundra that I was talking about earlier.
That'll be hard because I don't think with Tundras you can give it a 10%.
That's right.
So you'd have to change it to like a mountain or something like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Where's my...
Somewhere towards the top. It was terrain.
I also have... What were my other ones? Mountain. Oh, I have a swamp. Is one of them.
Yep, swamp will work.
And then minus 50% with the fire on the swamp. Or you get 10% on the water. So let's focus in on the water or death. So you get water or death on that example. And so in the example we're discussing, we're saying 1 BCX gold foil Chaos Legion card on each of your slots. You're getting a 660 PP per. It's truly a base of 600 for that 1 BCX, but then you're getting bonuses for the terrain type, etc. No, it's just that one terrain type bonus for 10%. So then you're creating a max 3,300 PP is what that looks like. Or just the one, and you said like call it $8 a BCX for a gold foil. Is that about right? You think?
Yeah, between 7 and 8.
So 5 times 8 is $40, and then the DEC commitment is what's the DEC commitment? $4 you said?
It should be 1,000 DEC per slot because it's 1/10 of max.
Yes.
So instead of spending 10,000 DEC per slot, you're only spending 1,000.
Yeah. So then that's like $4, $5, like depending on peg. So you're in the neighborhood of $40-$45 to make that happen, 3,300 PP. But then comparably, like I want to pull this up too and have a separate page here, land calc, and we want that was a swamp, none. This is a common plot that we're calculating on too, but like I said, it's not exactly relevant. No titles, no totems, no boosts, and then we want. The alternative is common max, 400, 400, 400, 400, 400. And then we'll go, again, water, just doesn't matter, water, death, as long as we're getting the max bonus. Presumably you would aim at getting those bonuses. And then suddenly we're at 5,500 PP. But the cost on this is, what did we say, $5 per card? So
if you pay 5 per card.
You're probably $2,500 or sorry, $25 on the cards, which is less than the epics that we just talked about. But then the DEC commitment is 50,000, which is $40, $42 American. So, and that's in some sense spent. So and then you're getting, so for $65, which is 50% more. Like it's $65 to do this path to get 5,500 PP, and it's $40 to $45 to do this path and get 3,300 PP. And yes, you that DEC is flexible in some sense. You could change your mind and pull the DEC out later. So you might like the flexibility of this. But I would argue if you believe in your land and you want to maximize the production, this is not the path. And gold foil, minimum gold foils is going to be a clearer path to it. Now your PP is almost cut in half though.
So what you could do on that example too is just bump like maybe 3 or 4 of them up to 2, just to get the production points close to 5,000.
Look at that.
So you can kind of compare so they're equal.
Yeah.
And now look at what the DEC cost would be. So
Yeah.
if you moved 3 of them to 2, so now you're spending 3,000 more DEC.
Yeah.
So another $2.40, something like that.
So now we've brought it up to, if we call it $8 a BCX, 16, 32, 48, 48, 56, and 64. $64 in cards, and I think it's 2, 4, 6. It's something like $6 in BC. So $70 versus $65, and this can't grow, by the way. Like, you can't later say to yourself, oh, these are my land cards. This is my DEC commitment. I'm going to just
Hmm.
add more BCX in here to tweak it up a little. Yes,
Yeah.
you could later say to yourself, okay, I'm going to pull out this one common and put in like a legendary alpha gold foil. That's possible, but it's not very practical because, the it's not this incremental increase. It's this massive. So I guess what you might do, you could theoretically just say, okay, this is one way of launching. And then I'm going to later on, as I get gold foil epics, I might pull out some of these and throw in and that gold foil epic. And I'm going to, I'm going to start off with maybe a 4 or something like that at some point in the future. And then actually that's lower. But you know what I mean? There's ways to tweak it. Maybe you get, instead of epic, you actually pull out a legendary. Maybe you get a legendary gold foil from your soulbounds, and you get that 2B, because a legendary gold foil is 1 BCX. But look at that. Like, so it's possible to grow from wherever you start. But I think probably the path you're describing, Gathering, is just that much more flexible. Because you conceivably can do bid buys to get this 1 BCX, which can really be a 20% savings on some of these cards in the first place.
And a lot of it too depends on what you already have. I mean, if you already have a couple gold foil epics, like I have a couple from the old reward cards. I think I have like a gold lava launcher and a gold revealer. Those are going to be 2 of the cards that I put on land. So if you already have some of these cards available that are in your collection that you're not going to play, do what works best for you. Don't feel like, oh, well, I have to spend, it costs more to do it this way. Well, yeah, it does, unless you already have some of the cards to begin with.
That's right. Kevin, my lowest monsters on land will have 500 PP. 500 PP, if you do 5 units and you're doing 2,500 PP on the land. I mean, that's like Gathering said earlier, like, everything matters, man. And it's, you're moving the needle, and other people are going to be doing less. There are going to be some people who don't optimize, who don't do. And so, yeah, good for you.
Yeah, and there is no right and wrong. I think what a lot of people look at too is they're like, you look at like a gold foil legendary, it's like, oh, 10,000 production points, and they feel like, okay, I have to have at least 10,000 production points on my land or higher, or it's not worth it. It definitely is worth it. Don't feel like this is a competition where you have to compare your plot of land to someone else's. Do what you're comfortable with, what you can afford, and just any amount that you do is going to get you involved with land, which I think is a good thing.
Totally. And like we just alluded to, with one of the cool things is you're not going to launch perfectly, but you are going to launch hopefully optimally for where you're at, and then you definitely can grow that. Like, the BCX can grow, the commons can become rares, the rares can become epics, the epics can become legendaries. You can find titles, you might find totems through the course of farming your land, etc. And Henster and Kevin both said over BCX doesn't apply as a fair on your production, and I believe you guys, but I know that you can create more collection power by doing that, and I still think you're right, but it's interesting to know that you absolutely can compile more BCX in a single card than 400 common. Like, you can do, bots for whatever reason did this, and they would put 600 in, and then your collection power gets higher too, because I don't know why this is good, but they would do this. They would put more, they would over level their cards, and then you get a bonus, because when you maximize, if you have a common BCX card and has 399 count on it, you get, I think, 5 collection power per BCX. But then once you go to 400, which is max, there's a bonus of 5% or something.
I think it's a 5% bonus. Yep.
Yeah. So then if you go above BCX, above max, you get that bonus on the above max. So for whatever reason, there were accounts that did that, but I think you're right. I'll bet they wouldn't sort of allow that. That wouldn't be preferable if that was one of the, because that'd be almost like a path to deletion of resources. You'd see some people might actually use that to like get rid of cards.
Yeah, I think on the page you have open there, like for legendary 1500, that's regardless of if you're over max or not.
Mm.
So if you're at 11 BCX, it's 1500. If you're at 15 BCX, it's still 1500. So, yep, you can definitely over level cards, but it's not going to be above those numbers that they show there.
Mm. Henster, 50,000 DC required for the common. Did we look at that one? That's the one we looked at. Yeah.
Yep.
Paul, you will have 9 power sources. You can put them on any plot of land. The building is still plot bound. Okay, that's good. So that's cool though. I actually like that I can move that around, that power source around. That'll be nice. Mitch, good to see you, buddy. Checking in before work. Appreciate you, Skeeter. Got to have you come back on sometime soon. We'll talk. Like we said, we want to do some battle analysis. Goldfoil epics, yeah, that's the path, I think. Let's see, Henster, growing your cards later is a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Because that might be kind of what I do on a couple of my plots is I'm going to put gold foil epics and leave a slot open. And as I get funds and buy another gold foil epic, just put that on the empty slot to increase that plot's production value.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I'm curious about is, let's say I have a 2 BCX gold foil that's staked on a plot of land.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add another card to it? Or do I have to unstake it, combine it, and then put it back on the plot?
I think you have to unstake it, combine it, and put it back on the plot, I think. And then there's that 3 day.
I was hoping I could just add to it.
I think you have to disconnect, and then there's the waiting period, and there's the farm collection. It's not called farming. It'll trigger
I'll trigger a harvest.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great conversation, man. This has really helped me actually get my head around some of the stuff. And I appreciate all the comments here on this stuff, because I'm still not quite 100% there. And I'm going away on September 2nd till 8th for Disney World with my family, which is going to be amazing. But I need to sort of get my head around some of this now, because I don't know if it's going to go live on Mavs between now and then. And I would love to be, even though I'm away, I would love to be ready and be able to launch. Hopefully I can. I'm hoping I come back and I'm here at my office ready to actually handle 1.5.
So when do you think the next phase is going to go live? They said August, and that's not going to happen. So are we thinking mid-September, late September? Dare I say October? I think it should be out sometime in September, but they're going to want to at least have it on the Mav server, I would think, for a couple weeks for testing.
Mm-hmm. I would say that we have to remember too that Farp is away, and he's not the only one that needs to be here. But I'm saying, like, while he's away, I would argue if the devs aren't ready at this very moment, and they still have work to do, like the last town hall that said it sounds like there's a fair bit of work to do. Like, they really made Time Crystal sound like they can't get it right. And then there's something else. I forget what the other things they mentioned, but they mentioned in the town hall, guys, if you didn't see it, Weirdbeard talked about 4 different things, I think, that were not dialed in. And the tone of which he spoke, I think, gives us a pretty clear idea that they aren't exactly even close per se. Like, when I say close, I mean they're probably weeks away, not days away, is what I took from that conversation. And add to that, Farp's not here, and it sounds like they haven't said how long he's gone for, but it seemed to me it wasn't just a week because of the way that they were speaking about it. I think somebody might have even said he's gone for a while, something like that. So is he gone for a month? Is he gone for 2 weeks? I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone he went to Alaska. He's with his dad or something. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a minimum 2-week FARP vacation. And then if some of these details aren't where they need to be, I could see them waiting 2 more weeks, middle of September, before we even put it on Mavs. And then probably 2 weeks on Mavs, maybe 1 week on Mavs. But again, I kind of think, to me, I'm like, when's Farp getting back? That's more of the question that helps me understand when Land's actually, because I think they've waited this far, and now they're like, these problems are big enough. We don't need to rush at this moment. And then I think Farp starts to get wrapped in that conversation. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the 4 points, but yeah, there are definitely 4 things that Weirdbeard mentioned. I remember time crystals. I think it was something also with the grain and the harvesting. Something either wasn't harvesting the correct amounts or something to do with that. But yeah, it made it sound like there definitely needs to be some more testing that needs to be done. It needs to, go through the MAV server and all that. So at least for me, I'm not expecting it to come out until probably the end of September, which is fine. We've waited this long. Let them do the testing. Let them get all the bugs ironed out. This is probably the most important launch that they've ever had since they launched the game. So let's, let them take the time and get it right.
Yep.
Oh, it was the castles and keeps. Yep.
Yeah.
Something to do with the tax collection.
Yeah. Yeah. Castles and keeps, grain relating to harvest. I don't know what that means. Totem fragments and time crystals are the 4 issues that are, I guess, tricky or complicated. Time crystals are going to be used in this way that can radically change everything about your plot. How fast it gets cleared, how fast buildings get created, and that can't be messed up, because if it is, you might just break the entire game. And then totem fragments need to be dialed in so that we're getting the right amount of totem fragments. There's not too much being printed or whatever through our farming, and it has to be not exploitable, or some, like if there's one little gimmick you do and suddenly you get totem fragments every time, that's going to break the game too. Grain relating to harvest. Grain relating. So there's something about, because remember, when you trigger a harvest, the game is going to calculate how much DC you have staked and how many monsters you have, they have, what they have to eat. And there's actually this calculation where if you don't have enough grain to feed the monsters that are working at that moment when the harvest is triggered, you will have to buy new grain for DEC at that very moment, or failing that, you will lose that production. And that's a whole complicated that's a complicated process, but I would imagine there has significant real world implications right? Because it's like, I'm going to get 1 million, but I can't feed everybody. I'm not buying that grain. So then I'm only getting half, 500,000. The other half gets deleted. And if that's not working properly, again, gimmicks and failure and breaking, and then capitals and keeps with the taxes. Yeah. If that's all, it's clear those are huge issues. Those are not like the user interface is doing something weird. These are big things. No. I wouldn't be surprised if we have another 2 weeks at least before we see it on MAV.
Yeah, those are definitely, I don't want to say major, but in a way they are major things that need to be addressed before it goes live. So yeah, they definitely need to take the time and iron those out and make sure that those can't be exploited.